Welkom bij Pro Wrestling U.S.A. Het is weer tijd voor worstelen op topniveau. Oftewel het wedstrijdgeweld van de WCW, het World Championship Wrestling. Maar eerst een opsomming van wat u vanavond te wachten staat.
We beginnen straks met een geweldige Goldberg tegen Bobby Blaze. Daarna een interview met de leden van de Flock. Vervolgens een tag-teamwedstrijd van Public Enemy tegen Mike Enos en Wayne Bloom. Chavo Guerrero Jr. neemt het op tegen Scott Armstrong. Vervolgens kunt u naar Glacier in zijn wedstrijd tegen Frankie Lancaster kijken. Tussen Prins Iaukea en Chris Jericho bood het al lang niet meer. En dat is te zien.
We beginnen met de man die binnen 9 maanden als een raket omhoog geschoten is. Als een komeet in de hiërarchie van de WCW. Goldberg. Zijn tegenstander vandaag is Bobby Blaze.
From the Worldwide Arena at Universal Studios in Orlando, Florida, USA. Welcome everyone to WCW Worldwide International. I'm Mike Tenay along with Staggerly Lee Marshall. And Lee, we've got a nice surprise in store for our international viewers this week because we're going to open up with a bang. The man in the ring, Bobby Blaze, is in the role of the challenger. And not only is he gunning for the United States Heavyweight Championship belt, he also is the next man in line who will attempt to put an end to the long, undefeated streak of Goldberg.
Bobby Blaze is going to try to do something, Iron Mike, that no man has yet to do. Nobody has caused Goldberg to lose his record totally unblemished. You know, wrestlers all over the world, they're looking at videotapes. They're trying to figure out, it's almost like trying to crack the code. What's it going to take to beat this guy? And so far, nobody's been able to crack that code.
Well, the question has been, who's next for Goldberg in this incredible winning streak? And you talked about wrestlers scouting out the possibility. One of the people who has their sights set on Goldberg is Saturn of the Flock. And Lee, I understand that Saturn is going to be facing Goldberg upcoming at Slamboree.
Yep.
And at the conclusion of this matchup, you are going to have a special chat with the leader of, the leader of the Flock group besides Raven. He calls him his enforcer or his henchman. You're going to talk to Saturn.
Saturn has agreed to talk with me as long as one of the provisos is that I have Kidman. Well, okay, if that's what it takes to get to Saturn on the eve of him facing Goldberg. As a matter of fact, Mike, in a couple of seconds, I'm going to have to excuse myself and get to the locker room. I might as well do it now. So I'll see you after this. It looks like this match is about done.
In other words, you don't think that Bobby Blaze is going to break this winning streak?
No, I don't.
There it is. First, the spear to take him down. And then Goldberg with the two-pronged attack of the jackhammer high into the air. Down goes Bobby Blaze. Referee Nick Patrick follows with the 3 count. And yes, the unbeaten streak remains intact. And Goldberg still is the United States Heavyweight Champion as we head into Slamboree. And his next effort, a title defense against Saturn. Here we take another look at it. The incredible power, the pure raw strength of Goldberg, lifting Bobby Blaze high into the air, dropping him down onto his shoulder, then crashing to the canvas. There's out of the 3-point attack, the spear, the takedown. And here it is, the high vertical suplex, following with the power slam, the inevitable 3 count. The next victim is Bobby Blaze.
Een van onze verslaggevers ging backstage voor een interview met de geheimzinnige Raven. Hij vond daar echter 2 andere leden van de Flock.
Hi, everybody. Lee Marshall here. I'm so glad you've tuned in to watch our WCW event today, and we've got more great action coming up for you. And I'm really kind of pleased that a man who rarely agrees to be interviewed has decided Raven is going to. Well, Raven was supposed to be here. Raven promised me he'd be here, and instead, and I mean no disrespect, sends out Kidman and Saturn. Where's Raven?
First thing you need to learn is promises are made to be broken. And that's exactly what happened.
Well, that's obviously a lesson I have just learned from your friend Raven. Because he has no intention of being here, does he?
Absolutely
He
not.
never had any intention of
Absolutely not.
I thought so. All right, let's talk then about, please.
Let's talk
now
about
I've got to get this dry cleaned.
Let's talk about the Flock's
Good.
mauling tour.
All right.
Let's talk about that. We're going to as many towns as we can and mauling as many things as we can.
I know it started in Orlando, Florida, and you seem to be sweeping the country with this mauling tour.
Absolutely. That's exactly what's going on. Let's talk about Kidman giving people choices in life.
I'm glad you brought that up. You are either the craziest or the bravest young man I know, because you go to his, and probably a little bit of both, because he's, I don't know if you fans have seen this, he'll go to opponents of Saturn and ask them how they want to lose. You don't find that just a little bit on the egotistical side?
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just trying to be polite, like my mother raised me.
Polite by saying, how do you want your butt kicked? That's not really, I mean, to suggest that they're automatically going to lose really is, like I said, a little on the egomaniacal side.
Well, by them answering the question suggests that they know they're going to lose. And I'm just giving them a choice. It's totally up to them. We don't even have a say in it. We just let them decide what they're going to do.
You know, life is all about choices, isn't it? You're just doing the right thing.
Would you rather have me throw you on the top?
I'd rather you just put. I'd just rather you just get your hands. I'd rather you just get your hands off me, right? Get your hands out of my pocket. I'd rather that you'd not touch me. I'd wish that this interview were over. Fans, I've got to get this now clean. Look at this.
Yeah, okay.
Ze gooien met tafels en nemen het liefst hun hele meubilair mee de ring in. Maar wat nog erger is, ze zijn met z'n tweeën. We gaan kijken naar een tag-teamwedstrijd van Public Enemy tegen de partners Mike Enos en Wayne Bloom.
Well, Saturn is next in line for Goldberg, upcoming at World Championship Wrestling's next mega event, Slamboree 98 from Worcester, Massachusetts. And while we wait for my broadcast partner, Lee Marshall, to return from the locker room area, in addition to Goldberg and Saturn and Slamboree, as we prepare for tag team action, the World Tag Team titles will be on the line. It's the Outsiders, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, to defend at Slamboree against Sting and the Giant. Also, for the first time on a major U.S. extravaganza, the Macho Man Randy Savage to meet the Hitman Bret Hart, special referee Rowdy Roddy Piper, in a Bowery Death Cage match where there must be a winner. They're finally going to decide it. Diamond Dallas Page to meet Raven. Also at Slamboree, Fit Finlay to defend the world's TV title against the Canadian crippler Chris Benoit. There will be a Cruiserweight Battle Royal where the winner will get a shot at Chris Jericho's Cruiserweight Championship that same night. And next week, on our international broadcast, we will update you on all the events surrounding Slamboree, including a detailed results report. You don't want to miss it. Lee Marshall, we see the Public Enemy bringing their furniture, as always, to the ring to face Wayne the Train Bloom and Mike Enos, and the tag team picture in WCW is wide open.
Boy, is it ever. I gotta tell you, every time I'm around Saturn and Kidman, I just want to scrub myself with a steel brush or something. Now I've got to get everything dry clean.
I was gonna say maybe a high-powered cleaning.
But you're right, as far as the situation as it relates to tag teams in WCW, we've got the Outsiders, of course. We've got that new team from Alaska, those young men known as High Voltage. They're doing very well.
Boy, they've been opening eyes, Rage and Chaos, and I think very deserving down the line at some point of a shot at the tag team champions, whoever they might be, coming out of Slamboree.
Well, I've had an opportunity to talk to Public Enemy, much like I just talked to Saturn and Kidman. And Public Enemy says this is a perfect opportunity for us to go back and regain what they think is theirs, and that is the Tag Team Championship of the world. They've held it once before.
They did. It was a short title reign, but nonetheless, you cannot deny the fact that they did hold the WCW World Tag Team Championship belts, and the opposition this week on Worldwide, provided by Bloom and Enos, another team that in the past have been recognized in another organization as World Tag Team Champions.
As a matter of fact, I think those that have been fans of this sport for a number of years probably recognize that Mike Enos and Wayne Bloom have been together longer than any other tag team currently involved in WCW.
Wow, that's saying an awful lot, isn't it? Yeah, you talk about the Steiner brothers, no longer a team.
Right.
You talk about a Harlem Heat as Booker T has gone the route of a singles competitor. Yeah, you're right. I think that's probably an accurate assessment. Enos and Bloom have been together for, I would think, near a decade now.
Yeah, they have.
Very effective as a duo. Good double team tactics on Flyboy Rocco Rock. The legal man in the ring is Mike Enos, and now he brings Wayne the Train Bloom, the former power lifter, up off the top with a double sledgehammer blow to the top of the head. Hooks a leg, shoulders are down, gets two. Charles Robinson, the official, pulls up at two because Johnny Grunge comes in to make the save.
A very interesting point about Wayne Bloom being a power lifter. When you look at him, obviously quite the athlete. As they say, he's a man that's cut by definition of his body and the muscularity, but he doesn't have those huge arms like a Scott Steiner, Big Papa Pump. But he is a world-class power lifter. Probably, if you measure somebody's ability by how much weight they can lift, Wayne Bloom may indeed be the strongest man in WCW based on that.
Oh.
Wow!
With an assist from Mike Enos, Wayne Bloom springs off the ropes, leapfrogs his own tag team partner, comes down across the back of Rocco Rock, and another 2 count.
Neglected to hook him up there. Mike Enos knows better than that. You get a guy like Rocco Rock. Whoa, wait a minute. Just grazed the top of his head, follows it with a boot to the midsection. When you get Rocco dazed, you better take advantage of it.
Whoa, moonsault back into the ring. Took a page out of Chris Jericho's playbook that time.
It looked a little like the lion salt, didn't it?
Very close. There's the important tag to Johnny Grunge. Duck under the clothesline and a lariat of his own. Down goes Bloom a second time. Down a third time, and Johnny Grunge is on fire.
We're having a party here in Orlando. Lottie Dottie going for the cover.
He waited that split second to celebrate, and that costs him the cover. Now all 4 men in the action. 2 in the ring and 2 outside. These are the legal men. Off the ropes goes Johnny Grunge with the spinning neck breaker.
Got all of that on Wayne the Train, twisting his neck and now dragging him. I think Bloom's out.
Oh, now with an assist from Johnny Grunge. Here comes the drive-by. Off the top. 2, 3, and the Public Enemy pull it out.
Somebody get a spatula for Wayne Bloom.
Excellent teamwork by Public Enemy.
Man, first Johnny hit him with the spinning neck breaker, then the drive-by. The Bloom one out for the neck breaker. He's out now.
Flyboy Rocco Rock and Johnny Grunge head up into the crowd here at the Worldwide Arena in Orlando, Florida to celebrate with this capacity crowd on hand.
Well, this was the part of it they look forward to, Mike. They always say, Lottie Dottie, we likes to party. And after they're victorious, they love going into the arena, beating the fans, have themselves a little bit of a party, much like Diamond Dallas Page. We now see him going into the crowd to meet and greet the fans. But Public Enemy, they're out to have, as they say, we're not here for a long time, but we're here for a good time. And they exemplify that as they are in the crowd. There you see Johnny Grunge. Well, let's have a look at the action. There's Johnny Grunge hitting Wayne Bloom with a series of clotheslines. It's at this point Johnny feels we are going to have the party. Hits him with the neck breaker, followed by the drive-by. Said if Bloom wasn't out from the neck breaker, he's out now. The 1, 2, 3, Public Enemy, your winner on Worldwide.
We gaan er even uit. Over een paar minuten een gevecht voor fijnproevers met onder meer Hulk Hollywood Hogan. Tot zo.
Komt Gros. Hè, waar blijven ze nou? Nou ja, eerst maar even lunchen. Variatiebrokjes met zalm, groenten en granen. Ah, daar heb je diner. Gourmet variatiemenu met groenten. Ja, ik kan ze wel om een boodschap sturen. Nu ook variatiemenu met rijst.
Welkom terug bij Pro Wrestling U.S.A. Chavo Guerrero Jr. heeft veel eigendunk en is zeer arrogant. Maar worstelen kan hij wel. We zijn benieuwd of zijn tegenstander, Scott Armstrong, daar een antwoord op heeft.
Introducing first from Marietta, Georgia, Scott Armstrong.
Well, The major announcement yet to come in this broadcast. The World's Heavyweight title is on the line. An exclusive matchup from Nitro. Lee Marshall, arguably the two biggest names in our sport today are going to collide. The head-on collision is later in this broadcast because Hollywood Hogan is going to defend the World's Heavyweight Championship against the Macho Man Randy Savage. And you know what? We cannot wait.
His opponent from El Paso, Texas, Chavo, Guerrero Jr.
Cruiserweights of substance, Chavo Guerrero Jr. And you can see him wearing the shirt. Eddie Guerrero is my favorite wrestler, and he is not wearing that by choice, Mike. He's going in to face Scott Armstrong today on Worldwide. Chavo little more at this point than an indentured servant to his uncle Eddie, who has caused Chavo to basically not only wrestle the way Eddie says, but live his life the way Eddie says it should be lived. Chavo just looking for any chance he can to break those manacles that bind him to his uncle.
Well, he's not wearing that shirt by choice, but one thing you can say about young Chavo Guerrero Jr. is that he is a man of his word. There was a stipulation to a match. He lost that match, and as a result, he needs to do exactly what his uncle, Eddie Guerrero, tells him to do. And he has been a man of his word and followed through, although you could just sense the frustration in his face as he came to the ring for this matchup. This is interesting because we have a third-generation wrestler in Chavo Jr. against Scott Armstrong, obviously a second-generation wrestler. Both men, Chavo and Scott, from, well, wrestling families.
Two of the legendary families.
They've really run deep. We're talking about brothers and uncles, and everyone really in the entire family has been involved with the professional wrestling game.
And to speak about brothers, uncles, have you heard what Eddie was saying about his mother, about Chavo Jr.'s grandmother?
Oh, now what has he said?
The matriarch of the Guerrero family says that Mrs. Guerrero is walking around the streets of El Paso, Texas, which is the Guerrero family home, wearing a towel over her head, much like Eddie's been, because she's so embarrassed. Now, I'm telling you what Eddie's saying, that she's walking around El Paso with a towel over her head because she is so shamed of Chavo.
Well, we recently had an opportunity to listen to Mondo Guerrero, who is the older brother, and he really set it straight, I think. He talked about the family being divided and the fact that there's such a tough legacy for Chavo to live up to. The fact that he and Hector and Chavo Sr. had all made their mark in professional wrestling, and that young Chavo has only been going at this for a couple of years. It's time to give this kid a break. Let him make a name for himself. Why all this full court pressure from Eddie?
Well, Eddie says it goes with the name. That's part of the responsibility of being a Guerrero, going back to Chavo Jr.'s grandfather, Gory Guerrero, of whom he is the spitting image, by the way. You hear us talk about Gory from time to time. Young Chavo looks exactly like his late grandfather. But those are indeed big boots to fill, Mike.
2 count off the backslide by Chavo Jr. Scott Armstrong, having some words for our ringsiders, fails to follow up the advantage that he had. That may be a critical error. Face first goes Chavo Jr. into the top turnbuckle.
Scott says he's the man.
Pair of right hands, and now a third one to the side of the head. Uppercut in the corner, and again, that snapped back the head of Armstrong, but he took the shortcut route.
Well, he was the man getting slapped around for a while, but now Armstrong again with the advantage. Into the corner goes Chavo. Oh.
Big boot stopped him, stunned him momentarily, rushes in. Chavo motions to the crowd. Tornado DDT out of the corner, hooks the leg, gets the 3 count.
What a Guerrero maneuver.
En dan nu het gevecht waar iedereen al weken op heeft zitten wachten. Hulk, Hollywood Hogan tegen Macho Man Randy Savage. Een wereldtitelgevecht dat heel veel losmaakt. Bij zowel de vechters als de toeschouwers. Na zoveel geweld en emotie is een korte pauze wel op zijn plaats. Tot zo na de reclame.
Als u als ondernemer veel tijd kwijt bent met het verwerken van uw post, bel dan 0800 0430 en ontdek de voordelen van een frankeermachine. 11 mei 1961. De dag dat er in Maldegem geen post werd rondgebracht. Het was de avond ervoor dat Jean de Nooier aan het eind van zijn lange toer Woegaardse das ontdekte. Dat was een ervaring die zijn smaak voor de dingen des levens voorgoed zou veranderen.
Gadverpilligers! Dat is pas lekker!
Vanaf die dag brengt Jean de Nooier geen post meer rond, maar is hem de baas van café Zottekop in Maldegem.
Had u nog?
Nu niet, hè? Zeg, wat zou u ervan vinden als we eerst eens lekker gingen... Nou, proost, hè, jongens. At your health. Cheers. Proost!
U zou nog
Joost, we hebben gasten. Hij wil een arbeidsongeschiktheidsverzekering. Bij potdorie de Amersfoortse. Nog één!
U bent weer terug bij Pro Wrestling U.S.A. De volgende vechter komt op met een lasershow met sneeuw en ijs. En dat alles om te bewijzen dat hij ijskoud de beste is. Kijkt u naar Glacier in zijn wedstrijd tegen Frankie Lancaster.
Here's another guy who's trying to change his focus, change his scope, maybe go at things a little bit differently in an effort to take it up a notch, to take it to the next level. And we're talking about a guy who arrived on the scene to an incredible amount of hype in Glacier.
I don't know of any athlete that could have lived up to the hype that Glacier received. And I think that's kind of coming back to haunt him at this point. Glacier is trying to say, for example, that he is the owner of what he calls the cryonic kick. Now, I've heard Saturn say that's nothing more than a basic karate move. I mean, some people obviously do it better than others, but there's nothing really magical, mystical about it. It's not an exotic move that only third or fourth degree karate senseis know. It's a very commonly used move, and for this man to claim it as his own property and province really shows what an egotist this man's turned into.
As a basic side kick is what it is. Saturn has talked about the studying Kempo for upwards of 12 years, and as he mentioned, it's just a very basic move that all of a sudden Glacier thinks he's patented. Well, they look like they're on a collision course for an eventual matchup. Opponent this week is the veteran Frankie Lancaster.
And I've enjoyed all his dad's movies, too. Glacier, he really feels that not only has Saturn taken his move, he's really put notice out to anybody that would employ a side kick or a spin wheel kick, and that includes the likes of a Booker T or a gentleman Chris Adams.
Yeah, can you believe that? He had the nerve to claim that Chris Adams was stealing his move. Chris Adams was wrestling when Glacier was still in diapers.
Exactly. When Glacier went to his first dojo, Chris Adams was knocking people out with that super kick. Chris Adams never claimed that it was his property. All he ever did was put the foot in your nose and send you down to the canvas.
Yeah, all he did was execute it better than just about anybody else in the sport.
Well, again, you know the old adage about how action does indeed speak louder than words, and all we've been hearing lately from Glacier is a lot of words.
The ring veteran Frankie Lancaster had the control early, but now Glacier fires back in the corner. The knife edge chop shoots him out of the corner. The Irish whip follows up with a big chop to the shoulder. Shoots him up again.
We can sell tickets on Glacier all day long. The fact of the matter is, he is quite an accomplished martial artist, becoming a very, very sound mat technician at the same time. But a guy like Frankie Lancaster, the veteran, he will test Glacier's mat skills.
Well, I think that's the key to any long-term success for Glacier. Work on your wrestling moves, monkey flip out of the corner by Lancaster, and add them to where your martial arts moves are complementing your pro wrestling technique.
Good basic move employed by Frankie Lancaster. There's a kick by Glacier. Put him right in the middle of the eyes with it.
Wow.
Wow, I think he just stunned Frankie Lancaster.
I know he stunned me. leapfrog. Glacier connects with his version of the cryonic kick, the super kick. No matter what he says, that's not his patented move. He does it awfully well, but people like Chris Adams and Saturn certainly have a right to maintain it in their offensive arsenal, Lee.
Your point is very well taken as it relates to Saturn. I think Saturn's sitting back in a locker room somewhere, just counting those moments before he can get an opportunity to take this man to school.
Langlopende veters doen het altijd goed in de worstelring. Het geeft een hoop spanning. Tussen Prins Iaukea en Chris Jericho bood het al heel lang niet meer. Het is dus tijd voor hun confrontatie.
And welcome back, everyone, to the Worldwide Arena in Orlando for our World's Cruiserweight title matchup. Here's the challenger, former World's TV champion, Prince Iaukea, and he has really been fighting the battle for, well, the people that trained him for professional wrestling, that brought him into the sport.
Right.
The Malenko family of Tampa, Florida, famous wrestling training school, the Malenko Wrestling Academy. Originally started, well, a little over a decade ago, I guess, by a former professional wrestler by the name of Boris Malenko. And in recent years, after his passing, that tradition was carried on by Dean Malenko. And yes, Prince Iaukea is here to fight for that Malenko legacy and that Malenko tradition. Where is Jericho going?
Jericho apparently disrespectful of Prince Iaukea. He's already taken one trophy off the young man. That beautiful Island Sarong, that among a number of trophies that Jericho claims, including the dignity of one Dean Malenko, including the knee of Rey Mysterio Jr.
Yeah, how about the mask of Movie?
Has the mask of Juventud Guerrero. So Chris Jericho, apparently a collector of not only wrestling memorabilia, but he like to think wrestling careers. If you hear him tell the story, he'll tell you he retired Mysterio, which is not true, by the way. Now, Dean Malenko, he did in fact go home. But Jericho keeps talking about it. I mean, if the man's retired, then leave him alone. You don't want to wake up a sleeping bear. And that's exactly what Malenko is.
Upcoming at Slamboree, Chris Jericho is going to be at quite a disadvantage. There's going to be a 15-man cruiserweight battle royal. And the winner of that battle royal will advance to a World's Cruiserweight title matchup against Jericho that same evening.
Now, that's where I think Jericho has an advantage. Because
wait a minute. He's going to have an advantage not knowing who his opponent is?
Well, I think that the advantage that he's going to have, Iron Mike, is the fact that whoever faces him has going to have to go through 14 guys to do it. He's going to have to go through an entire battle royal, and you know the energy that you've got to expend to not only go through a battle royal, but to come out the winner. So that man immediately will then have to face the Cruiserweight champion of the world. Now, I don't know if you like Jericho. I mean, I do. I know that you don't like where he stands philosophically. I know how you feel about the tradition of this sport and the fact that this youngster is very disrespectful of it. But put that aside. Chris Jericho's a very sound wrestler. So whoever wins that battle royal's got to give it against the champion and the fatigue factor of having to go against 14 guys to get there.
Well, then maybe it is going to be even because the winner of the battle royal is certainly going to be able to prepare in advance some kind of a game plan for Jericho. I mean, everyone that goes into that battle royal should have their strategy mapped out in advance if they are to advance on to the title match, where Jericho has to think about wrestling 15 different men.
Sure, I mean,
so maybe when you factor in the fatigue, I think it's an even situation.
I think of some of the luchadors that have already signed for this match. People like Psychosis, people like Super Calo, Juventud Guerrero, you've got to know, would love to get his hands on Chris Jericho one more time. He's in the battle royal. Chavo Guerrero Jr. is in the battle royal. And more names being added by the day.
Jericho, the boot to the head of the Prince, springs off the ropes, connects again. Prince Iaukea has yet to get untracked in this matchup.
And you know one of the things that Jericho does too? To really play mind games with Prince Iaukea is he refuses to call him by his real name.
Hey, everything but.
Yeah, Prince Itchy and Scratchy.
Prince Nakamaki.
Prince Icky Wicky. You know, he'll do just anything to unnerve the young man, and he's pretty much done a good job of that, because Iaukea is a very proud man. He's proud of his lineage, and the fact that if Chris Jericho would come out there and just start trash-talking him. Oh, man, did he connect on that?
Wow.
Yikes.
I think the Prince is counting his teeth at that point. What a front kick by Jericho. Up and over the top. Prince up on top. Roll through.
Prince.
Got a hook. Blade gets out. Only to the shooter. Mark Curtis down for the 3 count. And then the Prince walks right into the big boot from Jericho.
Jericho looking for any opportunity, I think, now to put on the Lion Tamer. Whether he wants to admit it or not, Prince Iaukea has given him a heck of a fight here on Worldwide.
That Mayer takeover. And now just takes the knee. Puts it between the shoulder blades of the Prince. Applies the reverse chin lock. Neutralizing type move here. Just a control move. Actually, it's twofold, because not only can Jericho rest at this point and regain his wind, but you see that he's working over the Prince and trying to slow him down, set him up for some eventual move. Who knows if it's going to be the Lion Tamer or what Jericho's going to pull out of his bag of tricks.
Jericho's trying to convince the shooter, Mark Curtis, that Prince Iaukea gave up.
Yeah,
he said yes. He said, well, he didn't.
Yeah, he's telling the referee to raise his hand.
Well, Mark Curtis, the shooter, he's the last person that's going to fall for that.
1, 2.
Get it.
Only 2. Oh, that has upset Jericho, obviously. Boot to the midsection, knife edge chop. Prince fights back. Back elbows to the midsection, and now Prince Iaukea goes to the head. Big overhand right, shoots him off.
Mark Curtis is not going to cut Jericho any slack after trying to take a shortcut like that.
Critical error that time by the Prince, going airborne, attempting the drop kick. Jericho hooking the top rope. Now it's his opportunity to shine. That move missed in the corner. Oh!
Chris Jericho, he always yells to the crowd, but I think what he's trying... Oh, there's... Well, I hope Glacier didn't see it. Actually, I hope he did.
Shoulder up at the last second. Nice super kick. Connected by Prince Iaukea for the 2 count.
As we've talked in the past, Mike, you know, Glacier has claimed that as his own property, and threatening anybody that uses it is going to have to face Glacier. Well, all right.
Prince to the ring apron. Springboard into a big somersault. Over the top and gets 2 again.
Prince has come very close on 3 occasions, becoming the Cruiserweight Champion of the world, and Jericho knows it. Oh, man.
Went up top, tried to roll through. Jericho drops down, applies the Lion Tamer, but he needs to make that long final step. No, actually, he's going to bend down. He decides just to bend down instead. I thought he was going to try and make that step over with the leg to balance himself, but instead he just dropped straight back.
Normally he would have, but if you saw how he had Iaukea head, he had it totally bent back as if it were really... Oh, wait, now he wants his hand raised again. Almost like a reverse chin lock action. He had the Prince's head bent back. He had no way to go. He had to tap out of that one. Raising his own hand.
Tough competition ahead, however, for Chris Jericho at Slamboree League. But in the meantime, let's take another look.
Here you see one of 3 different occasions in which Prince came very close. Had he been able to put that maneuver on Jericho, I think the decision would have gone the other way. But as it turns out, Jericho able to put the Lion Tamer on him. Watch the way Prince's neck is bent back right there. That's the pain. He had to give it up right there.
Dit besluit onze aflevering voor vandaag. Bereid u zich vast voor op de volgende week, want dan zijn wij weer zoals altijd met prachtige gevechten. Zelfde tijd, zelfde zender. RTL 5. Tot dan!
Wist u dat de bloedstollende film The Exorcist is gebaseerd op het waargebeurde verhaal van een jongen die bezeten was van de duivel?
Father Bowdern and Father Bishop decide that there's something here that is evil, that the boy is possessed.
Van alle gebeurtenissen die een halve eeuw geleden plaatsvonden werd een dagboek bijgehouden.
He said,
boy says I'm surprised to see you here. What are you doing in hell?
Het waargebeurde verhaal van een wonderbaarlijke gebeurtenis die leidde tot een film wordt weergegeven in de spannende documentaire In the Grip of Evil. Morgen 5:10. RTL 5, Nieuws en Weer.
Zo dadelijk in het RTL Nieuws. Strijd in Congo wordt internationaal conflict. En Amsterdamse gracht, strijdtoneel van zeilboten.
Jij en ik direct apart. 090 696 Bel nu.
Overal in Nederland waar veel vuil en vlekken worden gemaakt is het grote witte laken van Witte Reus van de partij. Voor een dagje markt waar alles vers is. Ook de vlekken. De vieste vlekken, de vuilste vlekken en de grootste vlekken. Geen probleem voor vernieuwde Witte Reus Compact. Die wast alles dankzij de extra enzymen in één keer weer stralend schoon. Witte Reus, wast een berg, kost een beetje. En natuurlijk wordt ook alle gekleurde was weer stralend schoon met Colorreus Compact.
Morgen iets na 7:30 geld, roem en geluk. En dit keer de 50-jarige Elena Stewart.
Sometimes I wish things wouldn't change.
Een bezoekje tijdens haar verjaardag. Om 8:30 Burt Reynolds en Sally Field in Smokey and the Bandit.
It's over for the old bandit.
Oh, it's the bandit.
Vervolgens om 10:10 de Amerikaanse documentaire In the Grip of Evil. Waarin uitgebreid aandacht voor duivelse bezetenheid. Om 11:05 een aflevering uit de documentaire serie Sterke Staaltjes. Met veel ongelooflijke en opmerkelijke zaken. En dit zijn ze nog even netjes onder elkaar. Een greep uit onze programmering van de zondagavond bij RTL 5 Nieuws en Weer.
Het RTL Nieuws met Jeroen Latijnhouwers.
Goedenavond. De strijd in Congo lijkt uit te lopen op een groot internationaal conflict. Steeds meer landen mengen zich erin en een poging tot vredesbesprekingen is vandaag op niets uitgelopen. Troepen uit Angola en Zimbabwe vechten nu zij aan zij met het leger van de Congolese president Kabila. En 2 andere Afrikaanse landen, Oeganda en Rwanda, steunen op hun beurt het rebellenleger. De rebellen zijn inmiddels opgerukt tot 30 kilometer van de Congolese hoofdstad Kinshasa. Ze vechten niet alleen tegen het regeringsleger. Ook verschillende buurlanden zijn in de strijd verwikkeld. Angolese militairen zijn Congo binnengetrokken en ook Zimbabwe steunt het leger van Kabila. Zimbabwe heeft gevechtsvliegtuigen naar Congo gestuurd. Daartegenover staan de opstandelingen, in de rug gesteund door Oeganda en Rwanda. Nu verschillende Afrikaanse landen zich mengen in het Congolese conflict, dreigt een grote internationale oorlog. In de straten van Kinshasa blijft de steun voor Kabila onverminderd groot.
Nous marchons pour soutenir le président de la République et protéger aussi notre pays. Jamais le Rwandais va passer par ici.
Vandaag moest een internationaal vredesoverleg beginnen in Zuid-Afrika, maar Kabila kwam niet opdagen. Hij zou ziek zijn. Ook Angola en Zimbabwe, de landen die Kabila steunen, zagen af van de vredesgesprekken. Tot grote ontevredenheid van de rebellen.
We believe also that this summit will help Zimbabwe understand that they can't succeed to oppress the people of Congo by trying to help one man, a dictator, Kabila.
De Zuid-Afrikaanse president Mandela wil de vredesbesprekingen nu morgen houden. Maar het is de vraag of de hoofdrolspelers dan wel komen opdagen. De vervangingsoperatie van een deel van de Van Brienoordbrug is voorspoedig verlopen. Na een kleine vertraging is het gelukt de brug van een nieuwe klep te voorzien. De opknapbeurt is nodig omdat de brug, die begin jaren 90 is aangelegd, door het vele verkeer is versleten. De operatie heeft de hele dag in beslag genomen. Vanochtend werd de versleten klep uit de brug getild. Vanmiddag is het nieuwe deel aangevoerd. En vanavond kon de brugklep op zijn plek worden gelegd. De hele operatie, die zo'n 10 miljoen gulden heeft gekost, liep enkele uren vertraging op door een onverwacht hoge waterstand.
We hadden in een scherpe planning gezegd 6 uur. Het is geworden 5 minuten over half 9. Een uitloop van 2 uur en 35 minuten. Vanmorgen zaten we uit dat we een uitloop hadden van 4 uur door allerlei toestanden met de waterstand. Nou, die hebben we terug weten te brengen tot 2,5 uur. Ik ben een tevreden mens.
De opknapbeurt is nog niet voltooid. De komende week krijgt de brug een nieuwe asfaltlaag. En dus is de A16 voorlopig nog afgesloten. Het verkeer wordt omgeleid via de Benelux-tunnel. En dat is ook de alternatieve route voor het verkeer van de A20. Die snelweg is wegens wegwerkzaamheden al enige tijd afgesloten. De komende dagen moet het verkeer rond Rotterdam dan ook rekening houden met lange files.
Minister De Graven van Defensie verwacht dat er bij Defensie complete taken moeten verdwijnen. Alleen op die manier zijn bezuinigingen haalbaar, zegt de minister. De kaasschaafmethode voldoet niet meer.
In het regeerakkoord staat dat er elk jaar 375 miljoen op Defensie bezuinigd moet worden. Het is het hoofd van de landmacht, generaal Schouten, die de minister nu waarschuwt in een interview met een defensietijdschrift dat de kaasschaafmethode niet meer werkt. De politiek, vindt de generaal, moet bij de komende bezuinigingsronde nu eens duidelijk zeggen welke taken niet meer uitgevoerd hoeven worden. En de nieuwe minister is het met hem eens.
Nou, op zich kan ik me iets voorstellen bij de opmerking van de bevelhebber van de landstrijdkrachten. Het is inderdaad waar dat de afgelopen jaren natuurlijk ook al heel veel op defensie is bezuinigd. En dat is voor een niet onbelangrijk deel gegaan door wat wij dan noemen doelmatigheidsoperaties. Je kunt het ook noemen de kaasschaaf, hè? Overal wat af. En vervolgens overlaten aan de onderdelen van de krijgsmacht om dat zelf in te vullen. Daar komt natuurlijk een keertje een eind aan. Op een gegeven moment is de kaas op.
Maar de echte keuzes zullen pas gemaakt worden in een nieuwe defensienota. De komende 2 jaar zullen de bezuinigingen bijeengesprokkeld worden door moderniseringsoperaties uit te stellen.
Gaan we door met kort ander nieuws van vandaag. Daar is hij. Een Egyptische islamitische organisatie zweert wraak naar de Amerikaanse bombardementen in Afghanistan en Soedan eergisteren. De terrorist Osama Bin Laden deed dat eerder ook al. Bin Laden wordt gezien als het brein achter de aanslagen op 2 Amerikaanse ambassades in Oost-Afrika op 7 augustus. Amerika heeft gezegd dat als het nodig is er meer aanvallen zullen volgen.
1 minuut stilte in Oma vanmiddag. Duizenden inwoners herdachten de slachtoffers van de terroristische aanslag die vorige week 28 levens eiste. Meer dan 300 mensen raakten gewond. De eerste president Mary McAleese was onder de aanwezigen bij een herdenkingsdienst. Ook in andere steden in Ierland en Groot-Brittannië werd stilgestaan bij de aanslag.
De militairen van Dutchbed die de val van Srebrenica meemaakten hebben veel last van posttraumatische stressstoornissen. Bij andere Nederlandse militairen die zijn uitgezonden kampt 5% met psychische problemen. Onder Dutchbedders is dat 10%, blijkt uit een legeronderzoek. Het percentage ligt waarschijnlijk nog hoger, want niet alle militairen zochten hulp bij Defensie.
De Consumentenbond overweegt een kort geding aan te spannen tegen de Amsterdamse kabelmaatschappij A2000. De bond hoopt zo de internationale nieuwszender CNN op de kabel te kunnen houden. CNN maakte deze week bekend van de Amsterdamse kabel te verdwijnen, omdat de zender de kosten voor doorgifte veel te hoog vindt. A2000 vraagt daarvoor ruim 7 ton per jaar.
We beginnen de sport met voetbal. In de KPN-telecompetitie zijn vanavond 5 wedstrijden gespeeld. De grootste verrassing van de avond was in Leeuwarden. Promovendus Cambuur speelde gelijk tegen PSV. Ook AZ, de andere promovendus, deed het uitstekend door met 2-0 van Sparta te winnen. MVV verloor op eigen terrein met 1-2 van de Graafschap. En RKC verloor eveneens. NEC was te sterk. En Vitesse versloeg Rode JC met 1-0. Het doelpunt kwam van Nikos Maglas.
Robin Korving heeft Nederland de eerste medaille bezorgd tijdens het Europees kampioenschap atletiek in Budapest. Korving evenaarde op de 110 meter horde zijn persoonlijk record van 13 seconden en 20 honderdste. Daarmee pakte hij de bronzen medaille. De Engelsman Colin Jackson won volgens verwachting de gouden medaille.
Richard Krajicek is er niet in geslaagd de finale te bereiken van het ATP-toernooi in New Haven in Amerika. Krajicek als 4e geplaatst werd in 2 sets verslagen door de Slovaak Karel Kuchera. Het toernooi in New Haven geldt als voorbereiding op de U.S.A. Open dat over ruim een week begint. In de tijd van het oude Romeinse Rijk lieten de keizers hun arena's vollopen met water en moesten de beste schippers, in het klein, een zeeslag uitvechten. Vandaag werd in Amsterdam niet de arena onder water gezet, maar voor de Battle of Amsterdam werd een gracht gebruikt.
Voor een zeilwedstrijd heb je een aantal dingen nodig. Schippers, wind, water en boten.
Deze bootjes heten mini 12 meters. De bootjes die worden gebruikt juist in dit soort wedstrijden omdat je als tegenstanders lig je erg dicht op elkaar. En ze zijn heel goed manoeuvreerbaar, dus je kunt goed op de man afvaren.
Met behulp van ballast wordt ervoor gezorgd dat lichtere schippers geen voordeel hebben. Iedere boot plus deelnemer weegt dus hetzelfde in de Battle of Amsterdam.
We zitten nu op de Singel in Amsterdam. Wij moeten hier varen op dit kleine stuk wateroppervlak tussen deze twee bruggen. En dat is voor ons een heel nieuw verschijnsel. Normaal gesproken zijn wij gewend om of op de wijde zee of op grote meren te varen.
Hier en daar loopt men averij op, want de gracht is maar 30 meter breed. Bovendien is de wind moeilijk in te schatten.
Hier bij de start, zoals je ziet, waait het heel erg rustig en hebben we eigenlijk alleen maar te maken met wat natuurlijke wind. Maar hierboven bij de windturbine staat er een fikse storm. Ik denk wel windkracht 8.
De deelnemers zijn allemaal kampioenen in hun eigen zeilbootklasse, maar ze zijn niet vertrouwd met deze schepen.
Er worden deelnemers uit allerlei verschillende klassen uitgenodigd. En het is dus eigenlijk een wedstrijd tussen kampioenen der kampioenen en de beste gaat winnen.
En wie gaat er winnen voor jullie drieën?
Van ons drieën? Ik?
We zullen zien. De finale is morgen en de winnaar krijgt een diamant ter waarde van 10.000 gulden.
Dat is niet mis. Tot zover deze uitzending. RTL Nieuws is er morgenavond weer om 6 uur op RTL 4 en 5. Ik wens u nog een prettige avond.